Alrighty, so let's do a news of the week episode as we are amidst in terms of these playoff matchup. Though our next playoff game is not going to be happening until Saturday, and then after that, I think we're going to have soccer pretty much every single day, and there's going to be at least one game every single day. And if we have game free in some of these series, yeah, we're definitely going to have more soccer heading into next week. So definitely fun times, and definitely time for me to kind of do a news of the week episode, and also do some moving forward series episode because as the playoff time has come and focus on this game, I don't get as much time as I used to release some of these videos. So the first news we're going to talk about is Luis Suarez. So there's a report saying that he's agreed to join Inter Miami as the deal is set to be done by December. Now this is not a big surprise because we've heard this rumor that this was going to be the case, and originally this was supposed to be part of the Messi package of how when Lionel Messi signed with Inter Miami back in July, and upon to bring some of his former teammate with him, with Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets coming in. Luis Suarez was definitely one name that it looks like was indeed going to join Inter Miami, but he decided to stay in Brazil with Grêmio. But now it seems like he is ready to basically join Inter Miami. Now, obviously, I know this is probably not going to be the replacement for Joseph Martinez. I'm pretty sure Inter Miami is still looking for a number nine option. But, bring Luis Suarez in. We'll see how that's going to turn out. I mean, I know this is definitely not going to help the league in terms of still labeling as some Euro snubs as a retirement league, but still, this is clearly a move for Inter Miami to know that. Well, let's try to see how many former Messi teammate we can bring along and just create all this hype about this team, and also kind of build the brand of Inter Miami in general on a global scale to a point where I will say that Inter Miami has done a really good job in terms of it. I mean, I think I have been to some sporting events that it's not even soccer, but I've seen Inter Miami jersey everywhere that I go. So at least they got that sorted out. And again, getting the greatest player of all time, of course, will do that to you. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and we have some unfortunate news to talk about involving racial slur because, first of all, MLS is reviewing a racial slur allegation against Philadelphia Union defender Kai Wagner. So, from what we heard, it seems like New England they were telling the league that Kai Wagner have said something toward one of our player, and I believe that player was Bobby Wood. That he said something about it. Now, obviously, I don't know exactly what he says, or should I share what he says on this video? Because yeah, this video is gonna get demonetized and probably gonna get cut short by YouTube very quickly. But yeah, it's sad to see that it is still happening, and especially to a player like Kai Wagner too. I mean, if the racial slur allegation is true, or even if it's not true, this would just be such a sad way for him to finish his career with the Philadelphia Union. I mean, we all have heard that Kyle Wagner looks like he's going to be moving on uh, with the Union this off season, and if this is indeed going to be true, and even if it's not going to be true, it seems like he's probably gone, and we might have seen it in his last game with the Union, and it's such a shame too because he is considered one of the best fullbacks in the league. It's definitely one of the best crossing fullbacks in the league, and it's unfortunate to see that this situation goes, and we'll see whether or not indeed it is true. I mean, I am a huge believer in the guilt, guilty until or innocent until proven guilty. I almost said it the opposite way, but yeah, this is not a good look for Kai Wagner, and just a very sad way for him to finish his career with the Union on a way like this. And then, of course, moving on, we have some more racial slur abuse that has happened. This time targeting toward Don Baji. Now, this wasn't involved with a player targeting him, more like on social media. And I've talked about before of how social media, that's something. There's a reason why, even though I leave my Twitter page and Instagram page on the description below, I don't use it very often because it's a very unpredictable and at times unstable kind of thing, and that we're seeing it happen again, where Don Baji have said that he has been racially abused on the internet. Obviously, when you look at that you can see some of the things that he said on his DM, and if you also look at the reply, that's basically immediately stepped in and said that they're gonna back Don Baji and basically once again said about that they have no. They talk about how this room is no, or this league has no room in terms of racial slur or discrimination that is going on, and yeah, it's sad that it is still happening in the year 2023. And I know, uh, I want to point this in a more positive note, but this is just going to be something that we're going to continue to see, and the league is going to continue to try to tackle in a way that they're trying to limit, or even in a perfect world, trying to eliminate this in whole where we don't see these racial abuse thing happen on the internet or even on the pitch itself. Now, moving on to a more positive note. So, Atlanta United striker Giorgio Giacomakis has named the newcomer of the year. So, this is kind of the time of the year where we see players are started to get end of the year award. The newcomer of the year is the first award that is being announced, and yeah, Giacomakis rightly so deserved to win newcomer of the year. I believe the finalist in the newcomer of the year is between him and Edouard Leuven, and even Lionel Messi was in the newcomer of the year. Now, I found it crazy the fact that Messi was part of the newcomer of the year discussion because again, I get it. Yes, Messi definitely made a huge impact to Inter Miami and definitely a huge part of their success of winning leagues cup. But when you look at the numbers, I mean, it's not like with this award, it's a very tricky award because with the way that we have the summer transfer window, and if the player just completely lighted up during the time when he came into the league, despite coming into the summer transfer window, do you still consider him to be eligible for this award? And in the case of Messi, I mean, I know he definitely produced some crazy moment during the Leagues Cup, almost kind of fairy tales story and Hollywood script kind of story in Leeds Cup. But in terms of winning newcomer of the year, I was a little surprised that he was being nominated, and especially even more surprised that he finished second on that list behind Edouard Leuven because I think between Giacomakis, his closest rival is probably Leuven. Leuven has definitely done a lot of good things for St. Louis, and if he didn't get injured during the middle of the season, and the fact that near the end of the year he kind of started to slow down a little bit, mainly maybe due to the injury that he suffered earlier the year. I think he would have really challenged Yakimakis for that spot, but rightfully so. Yakimakis winning the newcomer of the year, and again, who would have thought that Atlanta United has finally found an answer of Joseph Martinez? I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to be as good as Joseph Martinez because it's going to take a while for him to reach that mark, but it feels like Atlanta has finally found a good replacement in Joseph Martinez with Yakimakis. Uh, Finish as one of the best goals scored in the league, and I think he finished with 16 goals, which was like four behind in the Golden Boot race. And then moving on into the next news. So Alan Velasco, it's a guy that is definitely one of the finalists of being the young player of the year. Well, unfortunately, I got some bad news for FC Dallas fan. He's done for the season as it is unveiled that he had torn his crucial ligament, so he's going to require surgery, which means he's done for the season. And yeah, that maybe is it for FC Dallas in terms of their series against the Seattle Sounders. I mean, I know anything can still happen, and I mean, you still have to play the game, but that is a huge blow for this FC Dallas team. Like this team has already have problems on the attacking end. Alan Velasco has been a big part of at least contributing on the attack and at least give some firepower that this Dallas attack does not have. Now that he's done for the season and also maybe won't be available in the beginning of the year because when you tore a crucial ligament, it does take a while to heal. Even though I'm not no doctor whatsoever, yeah, that's going to hurt Dallas' chances of progressing next round. I mean, I think maybe even some Dallas fans will say, well, not that it really helps because in that game when they played against Seattle, they were very flat on the attack, and unless if they can use that home form, which has been relatively good this season against Seattle again, I think it seems like their chances of progressing the next round is now next to none. Like it was already gonna be tough because of the fact that for Dallas, the last team that they want to play in the playoffs is Seattle because that team seems to have an ownership against them in the playoffs. But now missing their best playmaker for the rest of the series and for the rest of the season, just a brutal loss for this FC Dallas team. Now, their rival Austin FC have signed Ethan Finley to a new contract extension. I believe it's a a 1 year contract extension. And while Ethan Finley, his career is definitely winding down, he's still a decent utility player. I thought he did really well doing his limited minutes that he's got with Austin FC, and still shown that he has that ability to be a good winger, and that obviously it sucks to see him leave Minnesota. I thought he was going to finish his career with his home state team, but it's good to see that he's going to be still in the league, and at least with Austin FC for another year. Now, the Vancouver Whitecaps, they have announced that they will open the Upper Bowl, and they're actually going to open up the full stadium for the very first time at BC plays in that second game against LAFC. Now, I'm kind of surprised that Vancouver has never opened their Upper Bowl before. Like, you would think that for some of those big games, especially for some of those Cascadia games, even back in the early days when, I remember in the early days, as much as I know Vancouver has not had a lot of success, when they came into the league, at least in the next couple of years, they had some really good teams too. And alongside when they do face against those Cascade team, especially against the Seattle Sounders, I would assume that they would open the Upper Bowl for those games. And even some of those Canadian Championship game, I thought they would go full bowl for those games too. But this is the first time that this is going to happen. Now, I'm not sure what the attendance is going to be like. I think BC plays a host somewhere close to around 60,000, but I think it's going to definitely be a record crowd. And again, the Vancouver Whitecaps in that game against LAFC. I mean, even though they lost that one, they've shown that they can still have that fight back, and that I think it could be a little bit different in terms of game number two. I think Vancouver is going to once again not only show that fight back, but they know that even in that loss that they had, which was a 5-2 loss, which again I also think that the scoreline didn't indicate the fact that Vancouver, they actually played relatively well. If you don't look at what happened in the second half, and that with the way that there's a lot of hypes around the team, especially this team. I think is probably the best Whitecaps team I've seen in a long time, and certainly one of the most fun Whitecaps team for a while. I won't be surprised we could get at least 50,000 or even a sold out crowd in this game against LAFC. Now, moving on in terms of next news, and this news actually just announced a couple of minutes ago, as MLS Next Pro has announced that Jacksonville Armada would become an expansion team and will be coming into the league in 2025. Now, that's the third team that has come to MLS Next Pro as an independent, and this basically just shows you that for the MLS Next Pro, as much as I know when it was first introduced, it was used as a kind of a minor league system. Now it seems like they're kind of progressing to the vision that they want to kind of look like USL Championship a little bit, with a mixture of independent club and also some of these teams that are owned by MLS team, and are kind of like the second team that is. And it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to go, because for these independent club, it's going to be interesting to see with a league that's more focused on development. Will they of course do well in the league, and will they follow that kind of formula, and maybe they might be affiliate with another MLS team, which is something that I don't think those independent teams want to do, because they the thing that I like about Jacksonville and Marta coming back is that it's a team that it's a very well known team. I still remember this team being in the NASL. Heck, if you watch my Sports Hub series episode, I think the first ever episode of the Sports Hub series, or actually no, the first soccer episode of the Sports Hub series featured Jacksonville Armada when they play against SF Deltas. And I always wonder what happened to Jacksonville Armada. I mean, last one I heard is that they were in the NPSL, but it's good the fact that they are back and now in the MLS Next Pro. And now I'm just hoping that they won't end up in the same path as Rochester, New York, because one of the things that I do worry about these independent club is that we saw Rochester, New York, what they did coming into it as an independent club, and it just did not work whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to see how these independent club is going to look, but especially some of these legacy team and these teams that have a well-known team. I mean, I think the one team that I really want to see back in any sort of league is the New York Cosmo. I mean, it's criminal the New York Cosmo is not bought back, especially they haven't been part of any league ever since, if I remember, when they of course uh were no longer a club after the NASL folded. I was assuming they were going to go to the USL Championship because of just so much history surround the name. I mean, if you mention the name New York Cosmo, that team just have so much rich history. Even go back to the NASL day, well, especially in the NASL day when they had the likes of Pele and Franz Beckenbauer and all those well known names. That was part of the failed first edition of the NASL. I really hope they bring that team back, whether it's in the MLS Next Pro or in any of the USL league. Now, I want to also congratulate Forge FC of winning the 2024 Canadian Premier League. So Forge FC is kind of becoming like DC United in the early days of MLS. Remember the early days of MLS, DC basically kind of dominate the league and won 3 out of the first 4 championship. That kind of is the case for Forge FC. Although last year, it was kind of different where we saw Pacific FC won it for the very first time, and it kind of broke the chokehold that Forge FC has on the league. And Forge FC has really been a powerhouse. This is the team that has really carried the flag in terms of the Canadian Premier League, not only in the league itself, but also in terms of international tournament. And I believe they're going to be in the CONCACAF Champions Cup this season too. So yeah, obviously, so congratulate them of winning the 2024 Canadian Premier League, and I won't be surprised next year if they're going to be the favorites again because I remember the early days of MLS where DC United kind of dominates the league. All that is because they have some of the best players and some of the best management, and you can say the same thing about Forge FC. And then finally, it was announced that, well, it's not official yet, but it's pretty much confirmed that Saudi Arabia is going to be hosting the 2034 World Cup after Australia dropped out. Now, knowing the rotation that FIFA, of course, uses, it seems like the 2034 World Cup, the only two confederation, or actually there's three confederation that can host the World Cup. You got, or actually no, there's two. There's two, only two of them is able to host the World Cup. It's either the AFC, the Asian Confederation, or the OFC, the Oceania Confederation. And after Australia decided to drop out, it seems like Saudi Arabia is now the lone Asia Confederation. And obviously with the OFC, FIFA will never select a country in the World Cup to host in an OFC Confederation. Considered the biggest OFC team out there is New Zealand, and even though New Zealand has been able to host big events before, I don't think they can host it alone, especially with the way that when you look at how the 2030 World Cup was set up, and as much as there's a lot of controversy around that, especially some big criticism that has gone to FIFA with the way that the World Cup is going to be starting in South America and Argentina and Paraguay and Uruguay, so forth. It's going to be mostly in Portugal and Morocco, and that people said that it's no accident that FIFA decided to do that because they want to make sure that both of those confederation get their World Cup. So now they can make sure that the only confederation are running for the 2034 World Cup is the Asian Confederation. And if there is one country that we know for sure is going to be running for that out of the Asian Confederation, it's got to be Saudi Arabia because of what they've done. And as much as I know there's a lot of controversy, and obviously I'm not going to get into talk about the whole human rights situation because that's also going to probably demonetize this video, and also don't want to talk about any political things on my YouTube channel whatsoever. When you look at Saudi Arabia and what they have done in terms of sports, and the Saudi league with so many well-known players like Neymar, Ronaldo, and so forth, and kind of almost rivaling with MLS in terms of getting these big name players to come play for their league. And also it's not just soccer that is a big thing that's the Saudi Arabia is focusing. I mean, you look at other sports like golf, the whole live golf thing backed by Saudi Arabia, and then of course the Formula One racing that's going on in Saudi Arabia. Even WWE has got into the Saudi Arabia kind of market too. Yeah, it's pretty clear that what Saudi Arabia has been doing, and the whole everybody have heard about the Vision 20 thing, which they were actually supposed to be the one that hosts the 2030 World Cup, but now it's being pushed back to 2034. And also, I'm just thinking that we're probably going to be in for another winter World Cup because there is no way in the world that they can host a World Cup in the summer in Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's basically the same climate as Qatar, what we saw in 2022, and that again, there's going to be a lot of controversy that's going to surround that. But at the end of the day, you know what FIFA wants. FIFA only cares about the dollar sign, and that especially with the way that we've seen a lot of players that have kind of backed the Saudi kind of government, even though in a very controversial way. It was always going to happen that Saudi Arabia was going to host the World Cup. Like I we might as well just confirm it right now, even though I know FIFA hasn't said it. That it's pretty clear that Saudi Arabia is going to host the World Cup in 2034, and not a lot of people is not going to be happy about that. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the news of the week. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.